Hello everyone, it's Rachel at From Moments to Milestones, and I'm here today with a brand new Christmas card class featuring some products from Hero Arts, some Nutcracker products. So we're going to make these 3 cards, Son of a Nutcracker, It's Christmas. Hope your holiday is all it's cracked up to be. And this one is a slider card. Things get a little nuts around here during the holidays. He's so cute. So if you get a kit, you will get written instructions with a picture of each card, and then in the back are all the supplies I use to create the kits. So we're going to jump in with this card here. We will start with this one. This one's pretty easy. We have these nutcrackers stamped and die cut out of different colors of cardstock, and I'm going to use a white gel pen. Oh, I need to grab one of those. Alright, I'm just going to make sure this one works. It does. And so what I did was I just went in and added, I'll pull it up so you can see, I just added some accents to different areas of the nutcracker with the white gel pen. So that's what I'm going to do here. Alright, I've added the accents to all 5 of my nutcrackers, and now I'm going to take my card base and I'm going to trim off, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to trim off 1/4 of an inch from this front panel. And so the easiest way for me to do that is I'm going to use the score line as a guide, and right now it's at 3.5, so I'm going to move it to 3 1/4. And so now your card base looks like that. Whoops, sorry about that. I just hit the camera. Okay. And then you're going to take, you have a strip of black, and we're going to add it to the front panel, right to the edge, but we're going to use like the back side of the card as a guide as to where to put it. So if you didn't want to trim that off, you could certainly just put it on top, and then the only difference is when the card opens, you have this fun decorative edge. And if you leave it without trimming it, it'll just be a straight edge with a little bit of white at the bottom. So it's really, if you don't want to do the trimming, that's fine too. I am going to add some glue to the back of that. And get it straight and press it down. All right. So now I have a nice clean edge on the back. That's how my card looks, and then this die cut or this emboss panel is going to go on the top, and you may need to trim it. I'm going to line it up with the bottom of that stitch line, and then and also I can see some black there, so I'll have some trimming that needs done, but I'm going to go ahead and stick that down. I'm being a little generous with the adhesive just because of the bumpy nature of that emboss panel. So right there over the stitch line. And then I'm going to bring my trimmer back over and go ahead and make some cuts. So I'm just going to, and you could use long scissors here too, but this is just as easy. Okay, and now I can see a little bit of that black, so I'm just going to line it up, the edge here, and take that off as well. Now we've got nice clean edges. All right, and so for the rest of this card, I'm going to line them up. I did rainbow order. You could do whatever you want. So we're just going to evenly space them. And I did put foam on the back. I have foam on the back, so I'm going to start with my red one here. So I'm going to pull off the backing, and I am going to line it up And I've got the feet along that black line there. And I'm just going to put them on, and then I'm going to do the dark green. Same way, try to get the same distance. All right, and then I'm going to take the yellow, because that's my center color, so whatever your center color is. And I'm going to use my mat here, and right here is the center. So I'm just going to get his feet in the middle there and his star on his hat. Alright, and then I'm just going to tuck the other two in, and it should be nice and evenly spaced. Alright, so here's the last one going on. Alright, there they are. And then we're going to finish by putting the sentiment. And I kind of have it in between these two, and I did raise it up a little bit. You don't have to if you're mailing it and you don't want all that bulk. It looks fine just sitting on top. I'm going to put strip here and a little strip here, and then in the center where it's going to go right in between them, I'm going to put a piece down and then another piece on top, and that'll give me the 2 layers I need. But you could certainly glue it down flat. You can glue it all flat if you want. So I'm just going to get it right there, and now it lays nice and flat, and that card is finished. Alright, for our next card, I hope your holiday is all it's cracked up to be, we are going to have some watercoloring to do. So I'm going to use, I've got a watercolor, a water brush pen, and then I'm going to use these. I'm using Distress Inks as watercolors. So I have Candied Apple, Tattered Rose, Wild Honey, Peeled Paint, Rustic Wilderness, Black Soot, and Walnut Stain. So those are the colors I'm going to use. And I have kind of squished them. I'm going to need to add some more of some of this. So this is Candied Apple, and it won't take very much. I'm not real sure. Wipe some of this up and just start fresh. We've got, I think that is Walnut Stain, and then Wild Honey. Put way too much on there, I don't need that much. We've got, this one's Peeled Paint, Rustic Wilderness, and then up here I'm going to do the Tattered Rose, and a little, we need very little Black Soot. Okay, so I've got my color palette there, and these pieces have been stamped onto watercolor paper, so I'm going to put all of this aside. I don't need the sentiment either. Got my palette here, and then I'm also going to get a paper towel just to clean my brush off on. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. I will start, I'm going to go ahead, maybe I'll color the Nutcracker on screen and the rest I will color off screen. So with this, it's watercolor paper. You can get it wet if you want, and then add the colors. So I used Rustic Wilderness on his uniform, or you can grab the color and go straight on. It's up to you. I'm just going to put a light base color down, and then I can go back in and add shadows and more color after it dries. And you can go as dark as you want. It's preference. Watercolor is very forgiving way to color. You can leave white if you really want that watercolor look. Okay, and then his pants, I'm going to go up to his hat. His hat is red. Let's see, let's do, I try not to do places that are touching so that the ink has time to dry and then I can layer color on it. So I'm going to move down here to his hair, which I used the brown. And the drier your brush is, so if you're not using a water brush that's constantly giving water, you could really get more concentrated color right away. So the drier your brush, the more concentrated color you can get. And I'm going to get his little mustache. And then his pants are red. Let's see. His shoes are black. I'm going to go back to the dark green. So I'm going to dry off my brush and pick up some color, and where I want it darker. So I want it darker in here, and I'm just going to put the dark color down. And actually that's bleeding in a little bit because the beard is still wet. All right. So there's the suit. I'm going to move on. I think you can also use a heat tool to speed up the drying process if you want to, but I'm going to move on to his boots, and I made his boots black. You can make them whatever color you want. And then I also did the brim of his hat in black, so I'm gonna Going dark from the sides and lighten up through the middle. And so I have a little bit of green in these kind of button areas, so I'm getting them wet. And then I'm using the paper towel to pick up some color. Hopefully that it won't be so green. That is working. And then I'm gonna go in with this wild honey. And put it on pretty heavy. The gold, and then on the areas I'm gonna wait for that to dry, but all the stripes on his jacket and by his boots, those are all done with gold as well. And then I need to get his skin tone, so I'm gonna dry him off real quick so I don't want him to get a weird colored face. All right, he's nice and dry, and so now I can go in, like I want to darken up that red. So I'm gonna right in there. I'm trying to use very little water. I'll just, okay, and then I'm gonna go in with some more of that red up here. All right, so there's his hat. And then for his face, we're going to use some of that tattered rose. So it's just a real light pink color. Do that same thing on his hands. And then I would like to darken up his hair, but that's all wet. So let's add some more dark green. I'm going to dry him off one more time. We'll darken up his hair, and then I think we'll call him good. All right, let's go in with some brown. Last thing, I'm going to see if I can darken up the boots a little. All right, and the final touch will be that gold on all those little stripes. So I'm just going to go in and add those. All right, so our nutcracker is finished. I'm going to move on. I use all those same colors and the coloring of all my pieces of candy, the brown for the pecans. So I'll be back with colored images. All right, I have all my pieces watercolor, and then the one thing I'm going to do, I have that white gel pen that I used earlier, and for these two pieces of candy, I'm just going to go over the polka dots because I wasn't super careful when I was painting. Perfect. So let's put the rest of our card together. So you have the card base, and then there are words on the back of that. Fa la 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 la. You want to make sure those are right side up. And then this is going to go on your card base centered. You just have a very thin white border. And then you have this red piece, and it is going to go right behind your frame. I'm just going to put glue on the inside and lay that down. And then if you want, oh, I guess I should have told you to pay attention to that. That has the barcode, so I'm just going to flip it around. Nobody's going to see. So you might want to check that on yours. All right, there we go. A little extra glue. All right, so then this, if you want to pop it up, I'm going to put mine down flat, and then I'm going to pop up my nutcracker. So it's about 1 inch from the bottom. It's not completely centered. All right. Pop up my nutcracker. And then he is just he's gonna kind of sit, he's a little bit bigger than the frame. And then I've got this yellow piece of candy up here and the half piece that's kind of green, and so I'm gonna stick that one on first, flat. That's just kind of gonna cover up the corner. And then I will pop this piece up. Just overlap like so. And then you've got a couple different pecans, so I'm going to put one of these tucked in here, however you want. And then this piece, I do have that one popped up as well. Just kind of off to the side, laying there. And then this broken piece of candy right like so. And then we've got another pecan here. And this cracked open nut down here by his feet. And then you've got the sentiment. So I'm going to have it sit just about like that. So I'm going to need foam off to the one side. Need a strip there. And then I'm going to put glue where it's going to touch the nutcracker. I'm just going to set that right like that. And that card is finished. All right, we've got one last card here, the Big Mouth Slider card. So this one's got lots of little pieces. So I'm gonna leave them here. And the first thing we're gonna do is, you have these two pieces here. We're gonna glue those together. So layer one on top of the other. All right, so that's glued together. All right, and then you're gonna put it on with the open side at the bottom. You're gonna put it onto your card base. So it should line up at the top and the sides and the bottom. And this is going to be kind of your sliding mechanism. Okay, you should have these two cream pieces. It should look just like this. I'm going to use some Tattered Rose Distress ink and a blending brush, and I'm just going to lightly, whoops, add some around the edges. It doesn't have to be real dark. We're just pinking it up a little bit so it has a flesh tone to it. All right, that looks good. Most of it's going to be covered, so just like so. Okay, and then what we are going to do is find the teeth. So you should have a piece that looks like this. This is what I cut your teeth out of. And then I believe all of your teeth are on a piece of Post-it tape like this. So I'm gonna, I think I gave mine away in class, so I had to cut some new ones so they're kind of all scattered. So there they are. And what you're gonna do is I would pull all the teeth off of this piece of Post-it tape and lay them down. And then we're gonna use these two pieces to place the teeth. So this is the top of the mouth, and then this piece, the long edge, is the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to center. I'm centering here to here, and I'm going to leave a little gap just like so, and I'm going to tape those down. I have more of this Post-it tape, so I'm going to tape them down, and then I'm going to put the teeth centered. Just like so. All right, so they're both on there. I've got the top row of teeth on the top of that piece, and the bottom row are on the top of that smaller piece. So I'm gonna go in and put dots of glue inside each opening. And then I am going to, where is my tool? There it is. I'm gonna pick up the teeth and lay them inside. So you do have 4 larger teeth. Those are in the center. There they are. And I'm just laying them inside. So there's 2 sizes. That's all you need to know. The rest, they'll just fit in there. I would just make sure they are right side up. All right. Another big one here. Now you can certainly just place those teeth free-handed if you wish. I like They are evenly spaced when they are die cut, and then you just remove that, and now they're perfectly on there where we want them. And you could do the top at one time and do the bottom at another. There we go. Okay, so now the teeth are on. So now we're ready to assemble. So you have this piece here, and it fits like a puzzle right inside that, and that's going to keep it from sliding out, and that piece up there keeps it from going any further. So that's the mechanism. So we're not gluing that piece down, we're just going to sit it inside, and then we're going to add glue just to the frame only, nowhere else, just to that raised frame. And then we're going to take this piece and lay it right on top. Just making sure it's straight. All right, and now that piece still moves, and later when we attach the beard, that's how you can move it up and down. All right, oops, mine's popping out of there. Okay. All right, so now I'm just going to move it up here so it's closed. And then we are going to take this green piece here, and we're only going to add glue on the edges. So the right and left edge, nowhere else. And we're going to lay it right on the bottom. If we add glue other places, then this is not free to slide. Okay, so just on the edges. And then we're going to go ahead and start to build up our nutcracker. So you have the hat, and the big red hat, and that piece goes at the top, just centered, side to side, right at the top. There he is. Then you have the hair. So it gets butted right up and almost right to the edge, right up to the hat. And then we'll put on the other side. The same way. There he is. He's starting to come to life. This green piece goes on the brim of the hat. Let's see, we have a starburst that's going to go right in the center. These pieces here, the little cording or whatever it is, it's good. There's two of them, and they're going to go right down there on the green. Then we put one near the bottom, and then we'll have the other. One right on top of the other. There he is. And you have two red shoulder pieces, one for the right and one for the left. And they go right on top of the green. And then you've got the two gold trim pieces, one for the right, one for the left. This one goes on this side. All right, and so now we're ready for his face. Let's see. So your cheeks are gonna go, I have stuff on my die cuts. I'm gonna use my mono eraser and get that off. So his cheeks are kind of gonna go right off of his teeth there. So I'll put one there. We're just gonna evenly space them. And then his mustache goes right over that. And then his nose. All right, and then his eyes. And you want to leave room, he has eyebrows. Here's the other eyebrow. So we've got an eye there. And an eye there. All right, and then you've got the centers of his eyes. And now for the finishing touch, it's gonna be, I don't know if I have something on my hands. I keep getting stuff on my card. This mono eraser is a lifesaver. All right, you should have left the beard and these 6 triangles. We are going to layer up the 6 triangles, and that's gonna create the lift that we need. That kind of pulls that beard off and allows you to use it as the pull. Okay. So I'm going to lay that one on top of that one. We are just stacking them. Oops. All right, one more. Okay, so we've got those. I'm gonna hold them together real quick with that while they dry. And then you're gonna take your beard, you're gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna add some glue right here. And we are gonna add this triangle piece with the point down. So this is the back. I'm gonna center it on there, and the point is down. And you can see why here there's a little triangle that is going to go into, so that it allows it to open and close. Okay, then you're going to put glue just on the triangle, and with his mouth closed, we're going to put the beard on. So he's centered right there. Give that a second to dry before you tug on it. think he should be dry. And now you have your little slider nutcracker card. That one is finished. All right, that does it for this card class. I hope you enjoyed these nutcracker cards. I know I did. I'm a sucker for a nutcracker. If you're interested in a kit, you can go to our website from momentstomilstones.com and search for card kits there. I will leave a link below. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.